After 11 years, I'm finally playing a new Mario Kart game. I was starting to think I'd never see the day we'd get another Mario Kart. Was this worth the wait? Absolutely. I am so satisfied with this game. But I'm not here to gush about Mario Kart World or the Nintendo Switch 2. No. I'm here to talk about the weather and the climate in said game. Let's not delay and get right into it, shall we? Unlike its predecessors, Mario Kart World doesn't have a list of courses to pick from that have little to no connection to one another. This time, all of the courses are set on the same world map, guaranteed, with connections to each other, the intermission tracks. Say what you will about said intermission tracks, I'm personally not a huge fan of them, but they do allow for a connection between each of the courses, an aspect not present in previous Mario Kart titles. From the meteorology perspective, this has the potential to be interesting. If we see weather in these courses, we could potentially see a weather pattern that develops across this world, seeing where a weather event starts and where it ends. Unfortunately, similar to previous Mario Kart titles, these weather events just don't really happen. Most of the courses don't have much weather in them. I saw some rain and snow here and there, but beyond that, it wasn't all that present. Seriously, Mario Kart just doesn't seem to have general weather. How am I supposed to analyze the weather in a series that doesn't have any? Jeez Louise. Perhaps as I keep exploring the game, I'll find something to talk about, but for now, I don't have much to discuss on the weather front. On the climate side of things, it's an entirely different story. Much to my surprise, they actually set up courses that were in similar climates to be close together on this world map. I can clearly see where each course is in relation to each other, and the color coding gives me an idea as to what sort of climate each course is in. This is going to be a lot easier to discuss than Mario Kart 8's climate was. Not to mention that there are only 32 courses in this game, and 2 of them are just different variations of each other. This feels a lot more manageable than the last time I had to talk about the climate in Mario Kart. Phew. So what's the plan? We're going back to my old friend, the Kepin classification system, to classify each of these courses into a particular climate. Let's break down the Kepin system a little bit, since that probably doesn't mean much to most people if I say that. The Kepin climate classification system divides Earth's climates into climate groups. Each group is determined based on precipitation and temperature patterns. There are 5 main groups in the Kepin system, each signified by a letter of the alphabet. I know, very original, but nonetheless that's how we decide to classify things. The first letter is A, which represents tropical climates. The second letter, B, represents our driest climates, usually deserts or areas where evaporation exceeds precipitation. The third letter, C, is used for temperate climates. Letter number 4, our good friend D, is used for climates that are decidedly continental. Our fifth and final letter, E, is used for polar climates. All climates are assigned a main group, one of the letters A through E as their first letter. Groups A through D are assigned a seasonal precipitation subgroup, usually the second letter in a climate classification. For groups B through E, an additional subgroup for temperature is assigned. This is the third letter in B, C, and D, and the second letter we see in Group E. As I started on my journey to make some determinations about the climate in Mario Kart World, I noticed something strange. Not just the fact that Mario Kart World's map seems to be very similar to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I wonder if that was intentional. It seems that Mario Kart World's, world is an island. Looking at it from an overhead perspective, it seems that the rivers on the map flow into some sort of ocean that surrounds the place. This must be a really big island if it's going to have multiple climate classifications within it. Granted, smaller areas can have multiple climates in them. We see this on Earth. New York City is a really good example of this. It is either a C or a D climate depending on what part of the city a person is in. This world that we're in could be similar in that regard. We're going to run with that assumption and get right into it. Let's start off with the courses that are likely A climates. Looking at the Mario Kart World map, I'd place our tropical climates to be the ones in the dark green areas on the map, and the one course that's on its own mini island to the very south. Looking at the courses in these locations, each course contains vast amounts of plant life and greenery, indicating these areas do not lack moisture at all. Yes, even Boo Cinema has some greenery to it. I'm not saying it's the same type of green as the other courses, it's not, but it's still there! My theory is that they really wanted a spooky aesthetic, hence why the colors are a tad muted, but it's still pretty green around here, honestly. I found it very impressive when I was playing through it. Also, it's one of my favorite courses, so I'm kinda biased there. Let's not delay and get right into our classification. Courses that at least have a classification of A, where the average monthly temperature is consistently 64 degrees Fahrenheit or greater, or 18 degrees Celsius if you're literally anywhere else in the world, would be Koopa Troopa Beach, Dino Dino Jungle, Great Question Mark Block Ruins, Boo Cinema, Acorn Heights, and Mario Circuit. Am I satisfied with just labeling these courses A and calling it a day, though? It's me, of course not. I think there are some subcategories that we can apply here. I believe that most of these courses are AF courses, which would not have a dry season, but the month with the least amount of precipitation would have at least 2.36 inches or 60 millimeters of rain. These courses would be Koopa Troopa Beach, Dino Dino Jungle, Great Question Mark Block Ruins, and Acorn Heights. Given how green everything is around these places, I think that they'd be fine candidates for this category. Each of these places has a nice tropical feel to them, and I could easily see them getting more than that magical number of 2.36 inches. For our remaining two courses that could be A, Mario Circuit and Boo Cinema, I think that each would also be above 64 degrees Fahrenheit on average, which is why I classified them as A at all. But I also think that these courses would fall into the AW category, which has at least 2 months or more with precipitation less than 2.36 inches. Precipitation should still be plentiful enough to cause there to be at least some greenery though. Honestly, looking at Mario Circuit, I can't be the only one thinking that it shouldn't be in a green area, right? I wonder if the sand that's there is just planted down, because I can't think of any other reason why this place would have so much sand. Seriously, why is it always sand? Speaking of sand, our type B climates are usually nice and dry, which is where our deserts come into play. Great, even more sand. Ugh. Okay, I'll try to get us through this. The good news is that there's relatively few places that seem to be dry. It's usually places with light and dark orange colors, yellow and black that seem to be more B climate-esque, which would be a climate where evaporation exceeds precipitation. I can't lie to you all though, I have questions about a few of these being here. Courses that would fall into the general B category based on this classification alone are Mario Bros. Circuit, Whistle Stop Summit, Desert Hills, Shy Guy Bazaar, Wario Stadium, Airship Fortress, Faraway Oasis, Cheap Cheap Falls, Dandelion Depths, Dry Bones Burnout, Toad's Factory, and Bowser's Castle. You might be noticing a few oddities with this list right off the bat. Firstly, I personally would not place either Cheap Cheap Falls or Dandelion Depths into the B category. I'm sorry, but just looking at these courses, there's too much water that would reasonably be in a B climate. Even B climates that aren't straight up deserts. I think that these courses would likely fall into a C or a D climate, not a B climate, so I'm going to straight up move them over to a different category. They really just should be B climates, given how much water exists there. Second, the last time I was trying to classify Mario Kart courses, I was in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and its Booster Course Pass. Some of these courses between that game and Mario Kart World are the same, and I was planning on giving them the same climate classifications. Then Choco Mountain came up. If you look at where it is on the map, it's decidedly on the line between a lighter green and a darker orange. What the heck does that even mean? It's in between climates? What am I supposed to do with this? Say it's both? I guess that's what I'm doing. I classified Choco Mountain as a B climate in Mario Kart 8. I guess it's getting a B and D climate here because there's no way I could justify it being a C. Third, there are other courses that fall in between lines like this. Mario Bros. Circuit falls between a dark and a light orange area. So is it more than one B climate? Possibly, though I'd argue this one falls more into a darker orange territory. Wario Stadium also falls in an in-between. So is it more than one B climate? Maybe. And Toad's Factory? Similar problem to Choco Mountain. It falls in a green area and a black area. This category really wanted to grind my gears, didn't it? Ugh, Nintendo, why are you like this? Alright, I'll give it my best shot. Excluding Cheap Cheap Falls and Dandelion Depths, our actual courses in B climates are Mario Bros. Circuit, Whistle Stop Summit, Desert Hills, Shy Guy Bazaar, Wario Stadium, Airship Fortress, Faraway Oasis, Dry Bones Burnout, parts of Toad's Factory, Bowser's Castle, and parts of Choco Mountain. Lovely. Firstly, let's split some of these courses into places where they'd get more or less precipitation. Courses that will likely get more precipitation are likely the ones in darker orange areas. They seem to be more like canyons than deserts, leading me to believe that these places would be different than ones that are just straight up deserts. These courses would be Mario Bros. Circuit, Whistle Stop Summit, Wario Stadium, Faraway Oasis, and parts of Choco Mountain. I would wager most of these courses would have an average temperature below 64 degrees Fahrenheit, except for one, Faraway Oasis. I think that this course would exceed 64 degrees Fahrenheit on average for the monthly temperatures. Given this, Faraway Oasis should be a BSH climate, and Mario Bros. Circuit, Whistle Stop Summit, some parts of Wario Stadium, and parts of Choco Mountain would be BSK. My reasoning here is that I expect evaporation to exceed precipitation in these areas, but not as much as it would in a pure desert climate. Now, Desert Hills, Shy Guy Bazaar, Airship Fortress, Dry Boats Burnout, parts of Toad's Factory, and Bowser's Castle would get even less precipitation than the other courses, making each of them BW climates. I do think there would be some temperature difference between these courses, though. I would say that Toad's Factory, being on the edge of a B climate zone, will likely not have an average temperature exceeding 64 Fahrenheit. Wario Stadium, also falling on an in-between zone, would not have an average temperature exceeding that number. I would place parts of Wario Stadium and Toad's Factory as BWK for this reason. For Desert Hills, Shy Guy Bazaar, Airship Fortress, Dry Boats Burnout, and Bowser's Castle, I'd classify them as BWH. They would likely be above a 64 degrees Fahrenheit average, not to mention extremely bone dry, quite literally. They're either sand, or are areas where there are literal lava. It's just too dry in these places, and hot to be anything else. You might be questioning what I'm going to say the light green areas are, as well as the snow-covered areas. Well, I think that we would have a combination of C and D climates in these places. The question is which courses are which. I'm going to classify relatively few courses as C climates, namely CFA for our case. I'd place Crown City, DK Spaceport, Peach Beach, and Salty Speedway in this category. Given the location of these courses, mostly by the coast of this world, I think that these places would be mild with a hot summer and plenty of precipitation to go around. I could see the average temperature of the warmest month being over 72 degrees Fahrenheit, or 22 Celsius, given how close they are to the ocean. What I think is the ocean. This is complicated, man. Most of the other courses are likely in D climates. To start, I'm going to go back to Cheep Cheep Falls and Dandelion Depths. I think these two courses are DFA climates, or climates that are extremely humid with a hot summer. I say this because their coloration on the map indicates that of the B climates, but they have so much water that I really can't see them as being B climates. Perhaps, even though they're not desert climates, they're still humid and warm though. I could see them maybe having a snowstorm or two throughout the winter, though it's less likely than some of the other courses, like Wario Shipyard, parts of Choco Mountain, and Peach Stadium. Those courses I'd classify as DFB, so humid with a severe winter, with year-round precipitation and a warm summer. I get the sense that these places could have a cold winter, but also have some humid days during the other seasons. I could also see these places getting precipitation year-round rather than having a dry season. You might be asking what I'm going to say about other courses that are in snow-covered territory, given that I brought up Wario Shipyard, which is close to the snow. Let's talk about them for a moment. DK Pass would likely be a DFC climate, which would be a place with a severe winter, no dry season, and a cool summer. Its closest to the edge of a green territory indicates to me that this place is cold enough to receive snow and get a harsh winter, but still would experience some snow melting, resulting in clear ground during at least a little bit of the summer. Similarly, I think Starview Peak would experience some melting snow, but winter would be colder given that it's further north of DK Pass. As a result, I'd label it a DFD climate. I'm going to bring us back to a course that was on the cusp of being in one category or another. Remember Toad's Factory? I think parts of it could be a DWB climate, joining Moo Moo Meadows in that category. I think that these places could potentially have some humidity, a really dry winter, and a nice, warm summer. I could see these locations getting some precipitation occasionally, hence why I say this. Now, there are 2 courses left. Well, technically 4 if you count Crown City and Peach Stadium twice. They appear in 2 different cups in this game, but for our purposes, I only need to count them once. The last 2 courses we have are Sky High Sundae and Rainbow Road, of course. Sky High Sundae, to exist as a course, has to be permanently cold. It can rarely get above freezing, or else all of the ice cream would become more like soup. Our climate here has to be cold for this course to exist as a concept, so I decided to label this EF, which is pretty much ice all around if this were in the real world. As for our friend Rainbow Road, well, there's a problem. It's either really high in the sky or in outer space. Either way, we can't exactly classify something when it's so high up and away from the ground. The upper atmosphere of the Earth isn't accounted for in climate classifications, and for good reason. Temperatures up there are nowhere near the same as they are at the surface. So I'm going to have to leave Rainbow Road as unclassified. Wow, that was still a lot of courses, wasn't it? How the heck do I keep getting roped into this? What's next, Mario 64? Actually, that might not be a bad idea. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe. I have more on the docket that I can't wait to share with you. I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day, everybody.